Okay, hopefully you can hear. Hopefully you can hear me this time. um, yeah. So there was no way to change the mic over once you've gone live. Apparently, so please, whoever's there, let me know that you can hear me. I spoke for about 5 minutes just a minute ago without realizing that I wasn't on the mic. Um, okay, you can hear me this time. Good, good, good. Yeah. So it selected the wrong microphone, and there was absolutely no way to change it over. When I did it on the when I was on the stream live, there was absolutely no way to just make it so that I could change the input settings like you can and everything else. So I had to start a whole new stream. Sorry about that. If people could share the new version, I'll put it up on the Discord. Just give me 1 second. I'll put it up on the Discord and everything. When I go back to saying what I was saying, while you were not hearing a word I was saying. Yeah. Hi, Nate, Shane, Zach. Nice to see you guys on this fine Saturday night. Okay, I'll post the new link. Hopefully that will be better for people. Okay, so yeah, I don't know. As I said, I don't know if I'm going to do this every Saturday night. And see, I was so punctual. I was on time. I was like right on the hour. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do this every Saturday night. I just thought it'd be a fun thing. I enjoyed doing it the other night, or last Saturday, and the time before that. And I was like, hey, I've got nothing better to do, so may as well just make a tradition out of it. So yeah, here with my wine again. Hey PJ, hey Ty. Yeah, YouTube does in fact be like that. So yeah, I've posted up the new link to people, so hopefully people will join us on this new one. I was saying on the other one, I know the backdrop's different. I moved my monitor. This is where the monitor generally sits most the last couple of weeks because it's better. Because where I have my monitors here, where I have the backdrop with all the X-Men Power Rangers stuff, the LED lights, where it sits there is good for that, but it's not great because like it's on an elevated platform, and then the second monitor's not on an elevated platform, and it just isn't great as a setup. Just because of how I built the desk and just problems with that really. So basically, it's better for streaming having it over there, but it's better for everything else having it here. And I just couldn't be bothered to move it after getting it from work. So you get him a nice wrestling backdrop instead. So hopefully. Those of you wrestling fans appreciate it. This is the backdrop I have when I'm doing all the rest of stuff. I'll move it when I do the Power Ranger show and all that tomorrow. But yeah, nevertheless. So yeah, I mean, as always, I want to just chat to you guys and let you guys direct the conversation. Same as last week. If you've got any questions or anything you want to know about, post it in the chat. I realised I didn't have to have my headphones on. I had them on last time. Realised that wasn't necessary since all this is text based. I want to do it where I want to see if I can try and set OBS up so I can do it where people could come on. Like I can have Zach and I can have Nate and I can have people on the video call with me like I do when I do the Patreon stuff. And I'd probably record it on Discord and do it that way. But I'm still getting my head around OBS. I remember the last couple of weeks on the Patreon Power Rangers content where I keep forgetting to record my audio. So that's how much I'm getting around the OBS at the minute. Yeah. So, I mean, before just kind of let you guys direct the conversation. So, Easthaven 8 is the name of the new show, the Easthaven 8. And it's kind of blown up. So I put up a Twitter casting call on Tuesday night saying, I'm casting for this new original project that we're doing. I said, it's an unpaid project, but the production team behind X-Men and Power Rangers, and this is what we're going to do while we can't do anything else. And then I was, 20 minutes went by. I was like, there's not been that many replies. There's been a couple of retweets and stuff like that. Nate, Will, Zach, the guys who usually are always supportive. A couple of them are here. But then all of a sudden, a couple of the big voiceover people on Twitter. Am I allowed to call it Twitter anymore? It's called X. Whatever. But yeah, anyway, basically they retweeted it and it really blew up, and it got 10,000 views. And I literally, for the next 24 hours, got at least 4 emails an hour, and more than that, Twitter responses applying for the project. And at present, the casting call went live on Tuesday, and I have had at least 5 auditions for every single character. Voice act community on Twitter is amazing. That's all I can say. Like, there's been some really big guys like Sarah Nightingale who retweeted it, who made that possible. Obviously, in the past, Joey has done it as well and things like that. So I appreciate the community that we built. Shakira Dunn, all those guys who were able to network us and get in touch with those guys. And I keep, almost being like, is this real? Like, I'm just posting to people, you do know this is just like a hobby unpaid project, right? I keep posting, just make sure you're clear that you read that, because so many people are applying with like demos and professional voiceover reels. I'm like, okay, just making sure that you don't think I'm studio or something like that. But no, some of the incredible talent I've been getting, and they're all new. Like, a couple of the people have from the old shows have applied, a few of them. But the majority of the auditions have been brand new people, and it's just been fantastic. Like, and the Discord now has a whole separate section, not only for Easthaven 8, but also now the Easthaven 8 writers' room, where we are, talking about ideas for scripts, proofreading the scripts, talking about the characters, getting on the call, and sort of hashing out what we're doing. This thing it's become this real production in just under a week, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, it's going to be an own original project, and obviously, as I said last week, that comes with its own pitfalls of I haven't got the IP recognition to, get people's attention, but it also means that we will own it, or it will. Obviously, I will own it, but I will definitely make sure to credit everybody who has helped me. Nate Lodbrook, who is in the chat, is a big one. He came up with quite a few of the characters, and he's helped a lot of the story stuff. Mitch McFarlane, who's doing the Avengers show, has come up with some great stuff. Zach Adamson, Ian, whose last name I don't know because he's just called Ian, or Captain Wolf on the Twitter, has come up with some great ideas. PJ has chimed in, keep good. A few people, I'll make sure to credit all those guys when it finally comes out, because I don't imagine that this will blow up like it did on Twitter in the casting. But if it does, I want to make sure that it comes to the future, and I'm not Stan Lee, and I'm just taking credit for everything. And they consume me over it and all that sort of stuff. So it'll never get to that level, but you never know. You never know, right? Got to be careful, especially with sound effects and music and things like that, because obviously, as I said, in the old shows I could just make sure to create the guy or whatever and use sound effects, as long as Wolverine's claws popping. Of course we'd have that in X-Men, whereas now any sound that I use, I'm going to make sure that I credit to the person, so that they can't just take our production down, because once I get to the point that I can monetize it, that's the point where people start going, hey, that was my sound effect and you didn't credit me for it. Make sure it's a royalty-free sound effect, all that kind of stuff. Fun jazz that comes with being a real production, rather than just being a fan fiction podcast. So that'll all be fun. Just catch a couple of chat here. So thank you guys that you're looking forward to it. PJ he didn't see the post. Yeah, I also posted it on the Facebook group. I'm going to leave the auditions open for about a week longer, let everybody get theirs in. I'll just say the competition is very, very stiff, but there's a lot of characters. So you may not get the character that you want, but there are a lot of supporting roles, parents, teachers, police officers, all that kind of stuff that, some of them will get names and become real characters as well. So just, if you apply for it and you don't get, one of the main kids, don't be disheartened, because you could always get something else out of it. Because, I might go, your voice wasn't right for that, but do you want to play this character? So, thank you for being part of it as well, Nate. Oh, thank you. I hope people do think, I hope that my writing is, because I think so far I've been able to have a crutch. I've been able to lean on the crutch of I'm building on the backbones of a story that's already been told and just making my own version, especially with X-Men. Power Rangers, I'm doing my own thing, but obviously I'm still following the general gist. I'm still building on the skeleton of the original show. So this is going to be something completely out there, and I hope people don't. He's just a hack. He just copies everything, and his writing. I'm not actually that good once I do my own original stuff. It's a whole process at the minute, and that's why I'm glad to have the contributions from the other guys and the feedback from the other guys, because there was a thing I was talking about last week that I was a little nervous about, a character trait that I was doing, and we decided to drop it just because I had enough people react to it a bit like, that's a bit weird. I realised it was an unnecessary thing that would just put people off from the show for no reason. So I cut it. Just things like that. If I was in an echo chamber, George Lucas style with Yes Men, then it would be, the show wouldn't be as good. So, yeah. Omri's given a bunch of notes and feedback that I'm going to take into account into the final draft before I'm casting with a second draft, but I'm going to work on a final draft. It'll be the one that everybody finally records for the tile take. And the other thing I'm going to do, which is different from the X-Men Power Rangers show, I'm going to try and do it more on the X-Men Power Rangers show, is like when episodes have come out really quick, one after the other, it's always been because I've planned ahead and I've wrote ahead. Like the start of season 3, when we had 3 episodes come out, month after month after month of Power Rangers. That was because I wrote 3 scripts before we ever published an episode. And I think that is the way to go. That's the way that will make a more consistent release schedule. It will also allow people to get invested a bit more, and also for the actors is better, because the way we do it at the minute, doing it episode by episode with Power Rangers and X-Men, I can imagine that's a little frustrating for the actors. They they sit around for months, and then they finally get something from me after 2 months, and I go, right, I need it for next week, and they're like, oh fuck yeah. So I think the idea of I want to write at least half the season. It'll only be 6 episodes. It'll be like a mini season. Basically, I just want to cover myself just in case the strike lifts sooner than expected. I don't want to have the process of running 3 shows at once. So I'm going to do it as a mini series, so that hopefully we'll cover the time that everything else is off. And we can, by the time that the series is wrapped up, strike life will wrapped up. If the strike lifts, I'll continue doing it through to the 6 episodes. It won't be like Trial of Bruce Wayne, where it's kind of whenever I have time sort of thing. I'll make sure that I actually get it finished, because having that support system behind me is amazing. Because obviously I've had it before, but having that support system behind me where the guys are always contributing and supporting when I post stuff and excited to read it is a major boost to get it done. So yeah, my idea is I'm at least going to write 3 of the 6 episodes. I'm going to write maybe all 6 before an episode even comes out, so that way the actors, when they're cast, can get all the episodes, or at least half the episodes, and record them all in a bulk rather than wait around for months for me, which will be a big change to how we usually produce these things. So I think that'll be better for everybody involved. And then, like I said, I'm going to try and do that on X-Men Power Rangers, and the strike break, I hope, means that we can do that. The strike break hopefully means that what I can do is write out the first half of X-Men Season 4. I can write out the end of my Morphin Power Rangers era for the Power Rangers audio drama, and the guys can get all their stuff recorded, or at least close to it, before we come back from when the strike lifts. And that way they're not waiting around for me, and then the long break will be after MMPR going into Zeo rather than anything else. And the same with X-Men. So yeah. Yeah, I'd like to think so, Ty, but who knows? Who knows? It's billionaires going up who don't give a shit against actors who are very much. This is the most I've ever seen a strike be so inclusive. Like it's strikes are usually, we're just not making, Hollywood are just not making stuff, or TV and movies just aren't writing stuff, or they aren't acting in stuff. I've never seen this where it's a complete shutdown and also affecting the world. And I think it's also probably the case that the reason this is the first time the world's been like that since this has happened, because the last time there was a big writer's strike, this was 2008, and that was way before like YouTube was still in its infancy. And it was way before influencers and all that kind of stuff. So it's a very different world we're in this time, which is why we feel it as independent creators who copy IPs. Let's just put it that way. I mean, this whole casting process has said to me what I already knew, which is like, I could absolutely replace all the casts that don't want to be in it, right? Like now, and we could just continue production. But as I said last week, and as I said in the previous video, that would be a really shitty thing to do, to have Joey and Kat and Connor play their characters for 5 years for me to then go, right, so it's the last few episodes for Kimberly and I'm going to get somebody else. That would be an incredibly shitty thing to do. And I also think the show would not be as good for it. Like, everybody loves our guys, right? So that's why I'm not doing that. But like I said, I'm kind of also, I said this in a tweet yesterday, I think, I'm kind of almost glad it happened in a way. Like, as much as it's ongoing, it's not great for all the cool stuff I had planned for Power Rangers and X-Men. It's allowed me to do this original thing, and I don't know if I would have done it if it hadn't been for this, because people have been on me for years, like even back to the original days before X-Men took the long break, of do something original. And we got something going original, which was Dawnstar. And the process of that work, I added too many cooks to the kitchen, and the process burnt me out quite a bit. And X-Men suffered as a result, and just everything. I got a full-time job at the same time. It just all was a whole thing. And so I kind of just was like, there's only so many hours in the day. I've got a full-time job. I want to live my life, but also do these shows, and also got the wrestling fantasy that I have to do all the time. And like, have I got time for an original show? And now I've got time for an original show. So that's the difference. People in the industry call that pulling a saban. Yeah, that's be exactly what that would be. Can you imagine if I just like, the ultimate dick move would be to like feed their voice into like an AI thing? God, can you imagine? That would be so ridiculously bad. Tabtroller and Body to Show, you have amazing cast for both shows. Yeah, they're so good. They're so good. Any thoughts on stuff to come, like the Omega Rangers? Okay, I'm not doing the Omega Rangers. Straight up, not doing them. And I'll tell you why. I don't want to just copy the comics. I did Draken, because you kind of can't do Draken in this day and age. Draken's awesome. And also, I wasn't going to do Draken as such a thing. But then when I heard Joey doing the trailer thing from Beyond or Into the Grid, where he did the lines as Draken, I was like, shit, I've got to bring him back as Draken fully, because he was so good. So that's why I did that. But I don't just want to follow the comics. I just do what they're doing, because they're doing a very different thing. And it was the thing that inspired my show, for sure. Absolutely, the big comics, like the fact I could have, her calling Kitty Saurus and that kind of stuff. You could tell it's obviously influenced by that, but I don't want to just do the comics. So I won't do the Omega Rangers for that reason. Joe Hogan for himself was, and the Corners episode was so good, right? That was fun. I'm not. The AI thing and the text to speech, like, I do it a couple of times in the wrestling shows, just because I don't have the interest of people who want to do voices for that as much. And I've only got Glenda, who can do the female voices, and she can't do like a British accent or an Irish accent. So I'll do a text to speech or something, and it's nowhere near as good. Like the bits where Glenda actually does the Katrina voice and stuff like that in those shows is so much better. So I would never do that to our main shows. Like, I think I used one text to speech voice ever in our shows, which was like a female voice that I just needed really quickly as like a one-line thing, going something like, what do you mean, Mr. President? Doesn't like that, and people noticed. So I will never do that again. Oh, Nate. Okay, Nate, you can do Becky Lynch. Okay, we'll try that one out. You better as good as my Becky Lynch. Yeah. So yeah, casting this new show is going to be really hard. I'm glad I've got some help, but at the end of the day, I've kind of got my own idea of how these characters can sound from writing them. And sometimes the problem with casting is I'm stuck between loyalty and the best thing for the show. And sometimes loyalty does win out. Don't get me wrong. There are people who I'm like, you're not quite there with the other person, but you're who you are, so I'll go with you. And it's going to be really difficult with this one because there are a couple of people who are just as good or almost as good as some of the other guys that have applied who are really involved in this show. And in some cases, they are absolutely the best choice for the role. And in some cases, I might go a different way. And I always worry with that of upsetting people because I feel like I owe people for always applying for my shows and always auditioning, and I feel like I owe them a role in a way, and always being there on the creative side and doing the proofreading and stuff like that. So don't get me wrong, I know a couple of them are listening who I'm talking about, but you guys are absolutely in finale contention. I just worry about upsetting you guys if I didn't go with you. That's my only stress with the casting. Like when it's a bunch of strangers and I'm just picking just based on a voice, that's one thing. But when it's people who I actually interact with on a regular basis, I would feel bad. Like I know there was an incident recently where I cast somebody else who was a stranger over somebody who has been on our shows on a regular basis, and they didn't take it very well, and I felt bad about it. But I have to go with the best choice for the show because at the end of the day, that is what people are going to hear. And I have to stand behind it and go, that is the best choice for the role. And like I said, I have got, for a few of the characters, I've got like 10 auditions, but at least every character for this new show, I've got 5 for every character. And it's going to be really, really hard to choose a final one because some of them are all like, there are at least 3 or 4 that are all just as good as each other. And it's basically just going to be down to me listening to it and going, I can't explain it. I just feel that that's the voice, and I'm just going to make that call, which I've had to do in the past, and it's not fun sometimes. Sherry Bryan, who do I think is better, Cable or Bishop? Oh man, the 90s are such a cluster F with that stuff. Cable's cooler, I think, in a way. But he's also got a lot more baggage, whereas Bishop is just like, oh, he's just a time traveling guy from the future, whereas Cable's got the whole, Cyclops connection and all that kind of stuff, and just they needlessly complicated time travel. Like for anybody who's like not on board with the whole Tashi yesterday's Enterprise thing from Next Generation, it's like that times a billion, but overall he is cooler, I think, in general. I like both, but they're both very 90s X-Men to me as well. Like I like them, but there's something about them that just is like 90s extreme with an X, pouches and all that kind of stuff. But I think they've done a good job of incorporating them into the modern comics, but they're definitely of that era. And I kind of feel the same way about Gambit in a way as well, because he's cool, but he's definitely of that era. But I will make sure to adapt them all very well, if and when we finally get to it. I mean, it was already going to be in 2050, as it was before we got to the 2000s. Now, God knows when it'll be with this break. But as I said to people before, we've had longer breaks. Like if this goes on for 4 months, we've had breaks as long as that in definitely X-Men, but even Power Rangers had like longer breaks. So it'll be back. It'll be back. I don't know why I keep having to reassure people. I put things out and people are like, oh, why? You're not doing it anymore? Like, I am. All these people who didn't read the casting call and are like emailing me going, I'm applying for X-Men. I'm like, I'm not casting for fucking... There was a couple of people who were like, I want to apply for Lord Zed or Tommy. I'm like, first of all, I'm not casting for that. Second of all, I'm perfectly happy with the ones I've got. Thank you very much. Yeah. if I ever have to replace them, God forbid, I'll give you a call, but not right now. That's a thing for voice actors out there. If you see an audition, read the whole text. Don't just skim read and fill in the blanks. Go, oh, Power Rangers. No. A totally original show, it said. Yeah. I mean, what else can I say about the show without it being spoilerific? But we decided to make it a period piece set in 2004. Originally, we were going to do it in the 90s just because of the feel of it, but then I thought 2004 is a good compromise. It's like modern enough. And also, I was that age of the characters in 2004, so I think it'll have a level of credibility. I think you have the benefits of doing it, and like a couple of people are like, well, why have you said it in 2004? What's the benefit? The benefit is you don't have to worry about social media or a lot of the cameras everywhere as much, and phone cameras and things like that quite as much. You still get some of that, but it's not quite as much as it is today. So I can tell a story from perspective of I was a teenager then, and what my perspective on the world was then. It's also kind of fun. I mean, we were talking about maybe doing time jumps in the future, but it's also fun to do kind of a period piece and just kind of make it of an age. And like to me, 2004 is not not that long ago, but it was 20 years ago. So it definitely is a a period piece at this point. So yeah, that should be fun. Just kind of remembering what was and what wasn't at the time. Like I can't have somebody go on Facebook. Hell, I don't know if I could even have them go on MySpace in 2004. I don't think that was even a thing. Hi, Mitch. Was talking about you earlier. So yeah, sure, would it make the story any different if I set it in modern day? No, not really. But the kids would talk different. And the even the way I have the Power Rangers speak is very not like the Power Rangers. Since it's set relatively in modern day, they should be Gen Zers. So I should have them on their phone. Like they should be in the command center on their phone all the time and taking selfies with Zord on and all that kind of stuff. But I choose not to do that. So it's always kind of a half period piece in that. So I think the fact that I've set the original show 2004 lets me do that, and people don't go, "Hey, wait, why wasn't it all over YouTube or Twitter or whatever?" If the government want to cover something up because that's a part of the story, they don't have to worry about it, going viral as much. Sure, it was a thing, but broadband had only just come out at that point, so not many people had unlimited internet access, and they definitely didn't have any mobile devices walking around. Like the iPhone hadn't even been invented, or even the iPod was in the very early stages at that point. Yeah. When was MySpace invented? I know it became like 2005, 2006 was when I was on it, but it might have been around in 04. Shane O'Brien, looking forward to writing the X-Men comics in the late 80s for season 4. Yeah, I mean, our show isn't set in the time period of the original comics, just because I did season 1 as like a modern version. Obviously, they had mobile phones and all that kind of stuff, which some people get confused by because they listen to like God Loves Man Kills and it's very a faithful caption, but he pulls out a mobile phone instead of going to a payphone. And some people get very confused about that, but no, it is just set during the modern day. But obviously, it's still got the feel of the 80s because that's the time period it's invented. Yeah, the Dell. Yeah, I had a Dell PC up until maybe I was like in my 20s. And then I realised that building your own PC is much cheaper and better. And this one's lasted me for 4 years, 5 years now. So, and it's still working pretty well. And that was with a outdated graphics card because that was when the torrent mining, not torrent bit coin mining was a thing. And it's still a thing that makes graphics cards ridiculously expensive. Ah, dear. So, Any questions about anything else? I mean, you can ask me about the show if you want, but I mean, Power Rangers, X-Men, whatever. $3,000 build on your PC. That's double the price of mine, man. I mean, I can afford that, but I don't want to. You know, I don't want to. I want to save my money. I've got a mortgage now, man. I've got my own place. Don't want to be spending money on things like that. Today I just had to, because there's some train strikes going on. I'm going to, speaking of wrestling, I'm going to AEW at Wembley next week, and there's train. Of course, they time the strikes for the bank holiday weekend to have the maximum effect. So I booked a train, but there's a chance that it's going to either be cancelled or too full. So I booked a coach today just in case, and that cost me 20. And I was like, oh, £20 extra, but you know, it's worth it for the security. The only thing is I'm going to have to be on a coach for 4 hours, and I've got to be there at 8:45 in the morning rather than at 10:15 to get the train. So, but hey, I'll be guaranteed a seat, whereas I turn up at the train, there's a chance I won't get a seat. So, yeah. Shane O'Brien, I'm just rambling at this point. I hope you find this interesting. I'm just talking about my life. Shane O'Brien, I know, I mean, the year they came out, because the late 80s comics are really, even though some people say Claremont was slowly losing the plot that time. I appreciate that era of Claremont. Like, when I first read them back in the day, I was like, oh, the X-Men are all splitting up and leaving, and like, where's all the classic team? And they're going to Australia? What the shit? But at the same time, I appreciate now, after reading it and going back to it after all this years, I appreciate that he had the balls to evolve the characters. And I think a lot of the butting heads that he had when they did the reboot in 91, when he left with Jim Lee, was that they wanted to do the reset and put them back in the X-Mansion with Xavier in the wheelchair. Like, the fact that they broke Xavier's legs again to get him back in the wheelchair is actually pretty ridiculous. But it's comics. They wanted Xavier back in the wheelchair. They wanted Cyclops back as the head of the team. You know, screwing over his wife be damned. All that kind of stuff. So they did everything they could to do that reset. But I appreciate the fact that they like evolved the characters and moved the characters' lives along. And it's this thing that always happens, especially in Marvel comics, because they don't reset like DC do, not in a hard way. The characters have this progression, and they always have to be snapped back to default. Which, when it's DC and they do a universe reboot every 10 years, it's a bit different. But when it's Marvel, it's really sort of jarring, and that's why I can't really get on board with the modern X-Men stuff, just because, you know, bringing everybody back to life and making them all gods just seems to be undoing all the old stories. Which I know, you know, you kind of have to tell new stories, but like, do we really need Jean Grey back alive? Does it really, you know? Can you not just like, for me, if they're going to do an X-Men story, what they should do is what I did. They should go back. X-Men Season 1, the book, which was the inspiration for my show, do that, but continue. Just retell the original stories, modernize them, make up sense, and just do the same story beats, the same characters join at the same time, all the stuff that I've done in my audio drama, but update it and iron out the stuff that has not aged well, and just do it, you know, call it whatever you want to call it, you know, a relaunch, a reboot, and like, the old comics will always be there, but I think so long as you honor them, that's the way to go about it, rather than snapping the characters back to default every 10 years. Where'd the name Cypher come from? Okay, exactly where you think it come from. Me and a childhood friend, who I'm still in contact with now, used to dream, me and her, that we would own a movie studio, and we used to say, oh, what would that studio be called? And she came out with Cypher in Productions, which I believe was after the Pokemon, you know, obviously with that spelling. So when I finally started putting out my own podcasts and my own stuff, I was like, well, what name am I going to call the brand? How about the brand that I came up with as a kid, or the cat came up with as a kid, and use that? I don't think she appreciated when I was using it just like for podcasts, but now that I'm using it for fictional stuff and actually make, you know, using it as what it was intended to be, which is a production studio. It's kind of, life imitating art and, manifesting it into reality, as it were. Mitch says she's dead again. Oh, she's dead again, is she? Oh, what's that? Time 3, time 4? 3, right? Officially? She died, Dark Phoenix, then she died in 2004, and then now this. Watch Cyclops get back with Emma Frost again. Draw me on Discord of a villain idea later. Okay, Nate has a villain idea, I guess, for the original show. Shane O'Brien plus Mr. Sinister and Apocalypse came first that time to her bad guys. Yeah, and as you heard in the teaser for season 4, at the end of season 3, Mr. Sinister will be in it, played by Oscar Savemeyer. Obviously, I'm gonna involve him a lot more in the Mutant Massacre, because it's kind of like what I did with the Brotherhood, where it's like everybody knows that they were involved later on, so I may as well just acknowledge it, like having Moira be at the mansion at the start and things like that, like things that make sense but weren't invented at the time. I'm going to do it that way. Like, I'm not going to do this thing where they just talk about Mr. Sinister, we don't see him until Inferno. I'm actually going to have him in it during Mutant Massacre. Even, only in cameo build-up bits, but I think it makes sense to build him up. So, Vic Gunn says, have you thought about the Kim Cat switch? Yep. And I'm keeping that one close to the vest because, if I follow the timeline, Cat hasn't got long as Kimberly, which is weird because the character Cat and the actor Cat, but Catherine Black has not got long left on the show. So yeah, like one frame of thought, as I said, could be, we've only got Kimberly's only got a couple of episodes left. I'll just replace her. Again, not going to do that. That'll be a shitty thing to do. She's one of the ones who obviously wants to get into acting full time. So it was affected by the strike. But so I have thought about it. I know exactly what I'm going to do. All I'll say is people who are expecting a happy ending and expect me to just go follow Zio pretty much exactly as it was, you're in for a shock. So that's all I'll say. Zach Hampson. Oh, thank you, Nate. Zach Hampson, as we all know, only 3 people stayed in comics: Tom and Martha Wayne and Uncle Ben. Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised we haven't had Uncle Ben come back as a villain at this point. Also, not knowing anything about X-Men storyline and playing a character right before the event called the Mutant Massacre has me worried. Yeah. I remember when I posted up I was doing Mutant Massacre and I was going to cast for a bunch of Morlocks. PJ was like, "Oh, Caliban can get friends." I'm like, listen to the title about what's going to happen to the Morlocks, dude, in that story. Although none of the important ones died, right? Not that there are many important Morlocks, but none of the ones that anybody really cares about. And I think anybody that gets presumed dead in that ends up not. Yeah, it's comics. I'll try and make it have a bit more of a punch as always. Dear. Well, as always, like I said, I'm going to try and get the OBS thing working so I can have people on the call with me. I'll probably just do it on the Discord and do it via OBS. I don't know how to do that at the minute. So this is just going to be the talking. I feel bad for going silent. So keep giving me things to talk about, because otherwise I'll talk about buses again. Fucking train strikes. Dear. Yeah, maybe I haven't got enough content to do this every Saturday night. I just felt like doing another one here. Maybe else got anything I want to. Nate, you can help me. Shane O'Brien, Pokemon or Digimon? What do I prefer? Pokemon, absolutely. Like Digimon, I watched when I was a kid, but like it hasn't stood the test of time. Weirdly enough, a Saban production. The dub was. Yeah, I know. Strikes and more bloody strikes. First, the actors' strike shuts down my productions, and now the train strike tries to stop me from going to AEW. Sons of bitches. Zach says, "What's the one thing Power Rangers X-Men that you're least looking forward to adapting?" Power Rangers. It's Turbo. I don't know what I want to do. I know I want to do in space. I don't know what I'm going to do in Turbo. Because my show, my show is very mystical and like it's got lore and like ancient aliens who created these ancient mystical powers of dinosaurs and animals and souls, and then they get cars. That's the problem. It's like, I made these magical, mystical beasts of dinosaurs and animals, and now I've made you a racer. That's my problem. It is just getting it into our world and making it make sense. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I have ideas. Like, part of me just kind of wants to skip Turbo. Not skip it, but like, one episode. It was a thing. Anyway, he is in space, but I feel like that would be cheating. I feel like it's more of a challenge to me to make it good. In terms of X-Men, the 90s, oh god, all of it. Strife, Onslaught, all of the just convoluted time travel, mumbo jumbo, bad stories drawn badly, where the artists were taking the forefront and the stories were taking the back seat. Like, the 90s aren't all bad, obviously, because they inspired the show that made me a fan, but just the 90s in general is just going to be a struggle for a lot of the storylines that they have. Like, I need to give it a chance, and I'm sure it'll be like New Mutants, where if I read them, I'm like, oh, this is actually really good. But there's just some certain things that are just overly convoluted with X-Men that I'm just like, how the hell am I going to make that make sense? And all the stuff I've done so far, all the best stuff other than season 1, has all been done by Claremont, and we're going to lose his writing for the characters and stuff. And Sherry Bryan will say Digimon is still around, but it's not as big and didn't die like Monster Ranchers. What the is Monster Ranchers? I've not heard that one. I've heard of Beyblades and all Yu-Gi-Oh and all the other knockoffs, but not Monster Ranchers. Are they on a ranch? Will Kimberly die in Power Rangers, says Eli? I ain't going to tell you that. You're going to have to wait. If the strike goes on a year, you're waiting a year. Sorry. Unless you're a patron, in which case I'm writing the scripts. You can read them on Patreon. Plug. I put up the scripts, first draft, final draft, all of them up on there. And when I finish episodes, even with the strike, I'll still release them on there if I can. If the cast get me their bloody lines, cast. Yeah. You think you got a strike, it means that you don't have to do anything, some of you. Yeah. But no, I'll keep writing scripts, and like I said, that's what I need to do this weekend. Really, is get episode 9 written and get that sent off to Sodoma is a whole other cog in this. Like, that's slowed it down a little more as having a script editor, but it's worth it in the long run because he helps refine my scripts for Rangers. I think a lot of silly ideas have been left on the cutting room floor thanks to his edits. Some good ideas, but a lot of stupid ideas that I had. A lot of good ideas have come from his contributions. T.R. Bruno, whoop, my coin broke on my car. That's the explanation on Turbo. But your coin broke on your car? Like, the power coin broke on their car and made it supercharged? All right. I mean, it is Power Rangers, but I don't know. Yeah, Mitchell Barnes said Turbo felt very wrong. I don't hate Turbo. I mean, as a kid I did, but I don't hate it. It's just adapting it to our version of the show. It's very difficult. Shane Bryan, Zordon was brought out by a car company. Like, he needed a sponsorship deal. I mean, it kind of makes sense in a way of where I'm going with the story, where the humans are getting more involved. Like, I've obviously got all this set up for Lightspeed Rescue going on. So it kind of makes sense from that point of view. Like, the humans make their own Zords, so they make cars. Like, sure, fine, yeah, there's your explanation. It just seems like a downgrade. That's my only thing, rather than an upgrade. Because there's no explanation for why they go from Zeo to Turbo. And I've got to come up with that in 2026 whenever I'm allowed to write it. Or whenever I'm allowed to release it anyway. Zakum says, for Turbo, just make it Power Rangers Death Race. Up, I mean, yeah. Well, like a really extreme version of Mario Kart, yeah. Ty Brunette, Energon to Transformers, Morph, Grin leak on cars. I think you mean Grid. Morphing Grid leaks on cars. No, I think what I said, where the humans are making their own Zords, so they make cars, is probably the best explanation. But I'd have to have the Zeo Zords and all that be totally wrecked and destroyed for anybody want to replay. Oh, Tommy, you're going to change in that Phoenix, you're going to get a car. I mean, I know people love cars, but come on now. Oh, dear. Plus the Turbo villains are no good, even to the show standards. I don't hate Diva Talks. I got ideas for Diva Talks, but yeah. She's not Rita, is she? I mean, that's just nostalgia talking. Rita was terrible too. Look, on the Patreon show where we're washing through all the Mighty Morphin. We're in the middle of season 2 now, which is a drag. The second half of season 2. The original show is not as good as you remember, folks, and that's why I made my show, to be as good as you remember. Or, as good, and then take it one step further and be like, whoa, you did that with it? Bringing in Sentai, all that kind of stuff, and I'll continue to do that going forward. As I said, my ideas for Zeo are to bring in a lot more O-Ranger, and the stuff I've been doing to Lightspeed Rescue is going to feed into that. I have been talking that because of the strike, I may cut the episodes down to 10 episodes. I'm originally going to do 12 like the other 2 seasons, but just so we're not too far behind when we come back, I might cut it down to 10. It just depends when I write and see what makes sense for the story. If the story works with 10, I'll do 10. If the story works with 11, I'll do 11. If the story works with 12, I'll do 12. I don't like to plan. I've got the plan, what the original plan was, but I also don't want to keep these actors on, retainer for nothing forever, waiting on me or waiting on the strike or anything like that. And a couple of them have only got a couple of episodes left, so can't drag it out too much, especially if it's going to be another year. So, and then after Zeo, it'll be a whole new cast, right? Because I ain't doing that weird fucking halfway Turbo thing. I'm adapting Turbo. I ain't doing that shit. If TJ and Cassie and all that they come in at the start of Turbo. They ain't coming in the middle. That was dumb. Shane O'Brien, can't wait to see more of your take on Machine Empire. Basically, I was like, what are the best versions of a Machine Empire out there? Well, the Borg, the Geth, the Cybermen. That's what the Machine Empire should be. Obviously, still keeping the sort of regal, sentient concept. But yeah, just the idea that they can infect technology and take over it, in a very sort of Borg assimilate way, makes them a much more legitimate threat. I've also got an idea of doing that socially with them, which you'll see. Because it would kind of, me and Joey spoke about this, it would be kind of boring if Mondo was just Zed again. So we want to do something different with that. And we've got an idea for this kind of more insidious for how he's going to do his thing. Yeah. Again, I'll just wait for you guys to direct the topic, and if there's no more stuff coming in, I'll call it early. But yeah, I mean, like I said, the main thing I want to put out there is Easthaven 8 is very much a production. That's going to be my focus going forward. But I'll still continue writing scripts for the other shows and keep, like just yesterday, I was booking cast members for line. So I'm not putting anything on the back burner. I'm still continuing things as I would with Power Rangers. I'm just saying to them, rather than saying, oh, get me back next week, I'm like, if you can get me within the next month, that's fine. Because there's no reason why it has to be next week because I can't put it out. So, I've got some time off coming up. I'll edit it then, in September. Should Brian always saw Mondo to be a little like King Henry VIII. I mean, he's definitely got that sort of tyrannical thing, but he only has one wife. He doesn't keep killing his wives. But other than that, now that would be a story if he kills off the Queen and replaces her with Rita and then Diva Tox. that would be an interesting take on the Machine Empire. Scorpina comes back from the grave, like necrotic Scorpina, his fourth wife. Necro Scorpina. I don't know. What would be a cool name? Scorpina Necro? Yeah. Dismantles the Queen and builds Robo Rita. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Uses the remains of Rita. Wait, what? It's fine. Talk about cracking open a goal. Oh my god. I only saw that joke halfway through reading it. New Robot Queen every season. Yeah, why not? Yeah, we got Astronomer. Then that weird bug lady from Lost Galaxy. Is it Lost Galaxy with the bug lady? That might be. I don't know. See, I don't know shit about the 21st century ones. Like, I know the Zordon era, and I know a little bit about the end of the Span era, but the Disney shows, the 2000 shows, I only know what I know from watching like Linkara and things like that. So that's part of the reason why we're doing the rewatch show for the Patreon reviews. Is also because, like, at the minute we're watching episodes that I rewatched to write the show already, which is MMPR. When we get to Turbo, I've not seen that since I was a kid, so that's going to be interesting. And most of Turbo, I've not seen at all. So I saw Zeo, but I didn't see Turbo because I fell out with it when Tommy and all that left. So it'll be interesting to see if it is as bad as it's remembered, or if it's actually much better. And I just didn't like it because it wasn't the Tommy and Kat and everybody. Zach says after the fall of the Machine Empire, a section of the government takes the tech and makes a beetle bug. Oh my! I'm not doing beetle bugs. And beetle bug. Boom! Tie-in. Second half of Turbo is better than the first. Yeah, I'm sure it is. We'll find out right when we do it. But one of the disheartening things about like rewatching MMPR as an adult is bad enough, and that's what frustrated me and made me want to do this show. But analysing it every week and having to go into the nitty-gritty about trying to make everything make sense, it makes it even worse. Yeah. Shadow Brian, will you have Mondo's little son and his goofy little as his goofy little thing? I don't know if I'm going to have Sprocket. Doesn't really make sense as a machine, unless he's just like a smaller machine that's growing. The idea that they're built and they built one to be deliberately inferior in a child doesn't, unless he's got some biological elements, obviously. Second episode again. Before they get into that, we're going to slug through Zeo first. I remember Zeo being good from being a kid because I loved the continuity of MMPR, and I love the Zords, and I love the look, and I love most everything about Zeo. I like the suits, the designs, just all. Again, the sequel, the fact it felt like a sequel to MMBR was what I loved about it as a kid, and that's what I've always loved about it. So I'm hoping it's as good as I remember. It's not going to be, but I'm hoping it's good. We'll get to that very shortly because we're zipping through season 2 now. We're doing multiple episodes. 5 episodes a week we've been doing the last couple. 5 episodes a week, and they've been the filler episodes of season 2. Yeah, you can feel our pain. Mitch McFarlane, you could probably skip Turbo and go right to in space with significant rewrites of the team. Yeah, I kind of want to do lip service to Turbo happened, but I don't know if I want to do a full season of it. These shows will continue going for as long as I have ideas and I have fun for it. And the problem also comes when I get to stuff like In Space, where it's still goofy Power Rangers, but overall it's well regarded. Like, the fun of the Power Rangers show is taking a show that is not inherently good and making it good, and taking the backbone of ideas that could be good if they were executed better and making it good. In Space, what I remember, is executed quite well. So obviously there'll be room for improvement. So it's hard. It's kind of like where I was with X-Men for a little while, where I was kind of bored because I was just transcribing Claremont because I didn't want to touch it because it was already really good. And I think now we've gone into season 3 and now into season 4. I've got back to having my voice with X-Men again, where I'm like, okay, I appreciate what you did there, Chris, but I'm going to do it in my own words and modernize it. And I feel like when we were doing Darth Phoenix, Days of Future Past, and God Loves Man's Kills, I felt like they were sacred texts that I couldn't touch. And I kind of got bored a little bit doing that. So I'm glad that I've kind of gone away from doing word-for-word adaptations with X-Men now. Second says, Sprocket is a prototype of the Machine Empire child soldiers. Go Dot. Machine Empire child. Why would you want smaller soldiers? Like, I know it's dark, but why would you want soldiers that are smaller? Unless they're just like for scouting, I suppose. I don't know. Yeah, Zach sent me a thing on Discord. I'll try that out later. Minions. Oh, okay, sure. Dear. So how is everybody? 11 p.m. here. 11 a.m. Cross, what would be going on? 11 p.m. here. Here on a Saturday night. I imagine it's middle of the afternoon for most of you. Hope we're all having a good weekend. This is kind of my Friday night because I work through to Saturdays on my day job. So this is why I schedule for Saturdays, because it's kind of where my week's over. Why I can drink. Mitch editing his last scene. What, for Avengers? You're editing your last scene for Avengers. Dope. As with everything else, once that's done, I'll put it up on the Patreon. So anybody who wants to hear the Avengers audio drama early, it'll be on that, on early access. Ty Brunner 502 here working on RBN at the moment. RBN? You're gonna have to tell me what that acronym is. I'm sure it's something you've told me about and I just don't know it. The Avengers show will be cool. Like I say, it's not something I had a passion to do myself because it's kind of like the same thing as well. The same with Claremont. I'm like, well, the MCU's done it as good as it's going to be. Or Earth's Mightiest Heroes has done it as good as it's going to be. I made my shows because I didn't, an X-Men show that followed the continuity didn't exist, and a Power Rangers show that was good didn't exist. So I made them. Whereas Avengers, I kind of feel like there's not that hole in the marketplace, which is why I wasn't interested in doing it. But I were absolutely happy to let you do it and prove me wrong and do something new and original and cool with it, and make me realise that the MCU isn't the be all end all and the comics did it better. So looking forward to that. It's going to be good. And obviously then once we've done that, we can fold it in and have crossovers and stuff. There is a thing I was planning for next year, and I won't say what it is because I don't know if the time will work out, but hopefully, the strike will be in by next year, right? right? So we may end up coming back with it as kind of a celebration when we come back. Next year is the 10-year anniversary of sci-fi audio dramas. 2014 was the start of Lost Enterprise, and then later in the year was the start of X-Men the audio drama, was 2014. That's how long Omri and Jason and Sam have been on the show, the narrator Sam. For 10 years they've been doing this shit for me, with a 3-year break in between there. So that's so I have an idea. There will be a celebration of our anniversary, and crossovers the word. Yeah, that's all I'll say. It's going to be ambitious, is all I'll say to that one. Ranger BattleNet. Okay, cool. I'll check out that podcast, Ranger BattleNet. Do you is it like a review show, or are you like an RPG or a fictional podcast? I have to look up that one up. RPG. Okay. Cool. We did one with Kim for a while that we were doing Checker Ranger. It was like a D&D RPG. Okay, cool. Well, we've been about an hour, so see if anybody else has anything else that they want to talk about. Thank you, everybody, hopping over to the second link here. I'll delete the other one on the Discord, same as I did on Twitter, since that is now a video of me in silence for 2 minutes until somebody remembered to, until Nate was like, oh, by the way, we can't hear you. I'll delete that one. Thank you guys for joining me for this one. Just fun to just hang out and talk. Shannon Bryan, thoughts on the X-Men Extinction agenda as the last crossover of X-Men doing Claremont's run? I'd have to reread it. That's the one that ends in like the Muir Island saga, right, where he breaks his legs again, and they're all in like the X-Men uniform, which is an interesting thing that they did right before the Jim Lee reboot. I think Jim Lee might have even been drawing the book at that point, but it was before the Jim Lee reboot with the animated series. They had it where they were all in variations of the X-Men, first class uniform, or like a 90s version of it, which was very interesting. Like you're seeing Gambit in the X-Men uniform, or Banshee in the X-Men uniforms. Wolverine even, like, he didn't have his mask. He was just dressed like one of the X-Men students. So it's definitely an interesting story. If it's before the Muir Island saga, okay, yeah. Is that the one with Genosha, Cameron Hodge, and all that? Again, it's been many years since I'm rereading the eras as I adapt them now, but I read the whole thing chronologically when I was at university, but it's been a very long time. Yeah, the one with Cameron Hodge and the weird spider legs and him betraying X Factor and all that stuff. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, the problem is with when they kept calling them that, like, mutant massacre, extinction event, but like nobody on the actual main team dies. Spoilers, unless you count, secondary characters or Morlocks or whatever. Like, nobody of big significance dies in those, so they're very sort of overhyped titles. Like they're cool stories, but like in terms of actual consequence, Mutant Massacre is obviously the big one because it causes people to leave the team more than anything, but nobody actually dies from the main story in those. But yeah, it's one of them that I look forward to rereading. I don't know how much time season 4 is going to cover. Like, it may go all the way up to 1990 and end with Gambit and all that kind of stuff leading into X-Men #1, maybe. But I just have to see how much content there is to cover, because there's multiple books at this point. when I'm adapting. So yeah. Okay. So unless anybody's got anything else. Oh, I'm yawning, so I should probably stop talking. Sure, Brian, I won't say who, but I think a member of the New Mutants die in Extinction. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Somebody specifically just die. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining me for this one. Just kind of a chill hangout. Easthaven 8 is coming. It's going to be a good time. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as we have enjoyed writing it. And yeah, the next the main shows will be back whenever they can. All right. Well, I'll let you know when I'll do another one of these. It might not be next Saturday, but I'll do another one. No, everybody.